I mean, honestly, to me, when someone comes to see us within that 10 years before they're going to retire, that is the perfect time because there's so much to start doing and thinking about. We're going to talk through all these topics that we've covered already and more. How are the different pieces of your specific puzzle going to come together to support you in this next chapter of life? And this is the area where we don't know the path you want to go on. We don't know what kind of life you're trying to craft. That we have to ask you about those things, but we understand how pensions work, and we understand the ins and outs of the 401k rules and the IRA and the tax code. We have the tools that we can use to help you build this next phase in a sustainable way, ideally. Hey, dear listeners, we need to let you know that Kevin and Stephanie offer investment advice through Private Advisor Group, which is a federally registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations to any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Now let's get on with the show. This is Take Back Retirement, the show that's redefining retirement for women. Retirement is an old-fashioned cultural concept. We want to reclaim the word so you can make it your own. I'm Stephanie McCullough, financial planner and founder of Sophia Financial, where our mission is to reduce women's money stress and empower them to make wise, holistic decisions so they can get back to living their best lives. Kevin Gaines is my longtime colleague with deep knowledge in the technical stuff, investments, taxes, and retirement plan rules. He's a little bit geeky and quantitative. I'm a little bit touchy-feely and qualitative. Together, through conversations and interviews, we aim to give you the information and motivation you need to move forward with confidence. We're so glad you're here. Coming to you semi-live from the beautiful West Lakes Office Park in suburban Philadelphia, this is Stephanie McCullough and Kevin Gaines of Sophia Financial and American Financial Management Group. Say hello, Kevin.
Hello, Kevin.
Today, we found a fun article on hermoney.com, which is Jean Chatzky's platform, about 10 things you should do when retirement is 10 years away. And Kevin, you're a little bit younger than me, but I'm 59. So retirement, whatever that might mean, listeners, that I always put that in quotes, it could be 10-ish years away. How about you?
Hey, I'm sitting here on the outside looking in at 56. So, 10 years, maybe not on the nose, but yeah, close enough for government work, as they say.
Not too much farther than that, huh?
I would say this is, is this an exhaustive list? Is it a great list? Everybody's going to have their opinions on this. But I think the value here is just to get people thinking.
Yes.
I mean, If you just start the momentum and it's like, oh, okay, well, some of these things, and here's what I think is probably one of the better parts. It's almost like pushing a stone downhill as opposed to uphill.
Right.
A lot of people, you start thinking as you're approaching retirement, oh, I got to think of this. I got to think of this. I got to think of this.
It feels overwhelming.
Now, all of a sudden it's like, oh, geez, I got to do this. And it's, literally, you're pushing that stone up the hill, trying to get your thoughts just to do this. But once you get going on it, a lot of this stuff gets easier. Maybe not the math or anything, but at least you now have the momentum of your thinking.
Exactly.
And
getting some momentum.
That's really going to get you motivated to go, oh, what the hell? Let's give it a shot and see what we come up with.
Yeah, you don't sit around waiting to feel motivated to do this stuff. You take some little actions, and that often gives you the motivation and the momentum to move forward. So here's some different ideas from Jean Chatzky's hermoney.com on some things you could do. And the first one I have to say is a little bit fun. The first one they suggest is try out retirement destinations on vacation. So if you've got someplace maybe your partner have been thinking about, oh, wouldn't it be fun to move there or live part of the year there? Do a little experiment. Try it out. Go visit for a week or rent a place for a couple weeks and pretend you live there and see what it feels like.
Yeah. I would actually dare suggest, depending on, work, if you're able to work remotely or whatever, maybe work longer periods of time at these locations and to get a sense of the day to day
Yes.
routine of what's it like after the novelty wears off of that first couple days.
Right. What's it like when you're not in the high season, perhaps even? Or what's it like when you
Yeah.
actually have to go to the grocery store or find, a primary care physician in that area, right? If you can start talking to some of the locals and getting a feel for it, that can go a
Yeah.
long way to helping you feel more confident.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not the only frequent visitor to a particular city in the desert of southern Nevada. But, once you're there for 3 or 4 days, a lot of people say, yeah, I'm done. Well, there you go. There's a big difference between visiting a city and living in the city.
Right.
So, think of this. In fact, one of our earlier real retirement stories was actually about a couple that do this. What did she call it, Stephanie? Like her gap year?
Her gap year.
Was her inspiration for this?
Mm-hmm.
And they would just go a couple different cities, stay there for, I think she said, like a year?
Yeah, they did it like hardcore.
Yeah. And, the hopes are, when they're finally ready to settle down in their retirement years, they know where they want to stay. Or maybe they'll figure out, we really don't want to stay anywhere forever.
Yeah. I like that idea of, if you can do it and be mobile and don't have the entangling things back at home, what could you do? Could you get creative in this way? And we'll point to that episode in the show notes. Okay.
Yeah, Stephanie, we're probably going to have to say that in the show notes a lot, because the nice thing about having done this podcast for so long is a lot of these things on the list, we've at least touched on, if not had episodes dedicated to some of these topics.
Right.
So another pat on our backs for having thought of all of these wonderful ideas ourselves before this list.
Here's one we hadn't thought of and haven't really touched on, I don't think. Don't put off home repairs and renovations. So this is an interesting idea, right? While you're still working, if you think, oh, you know what, we might want to do this, or we might need to kind of, fix up the roof. Is it easier to do that repair while you're working and have an income stream? Or do you want to face it potentially, when it's a crisis, when you have to do it later down the road? And I don't know that there's a perfect answer to this, but it is, if you're staying in your home, it is something to consider. There is always SHIT that happens in your house. For example, last Friday night, I was alone in the home. My husband was away for the weekend, and I go down the basement and there's water on the floor. I was like, oh man, really? Really? Are you kidding me now? So I am now on Wednesday morning, the proud owner of a new hot water heater, which I didn't plan on spending $1,000 on, but there you have it.
All right. So, at least he didn't get in trouble for getting you a hot water heater for Mother's Day, is what you're saying.
This is true.
But what I would say about this topic is two things. One, think beyond just repairing the house. Think about any type of big expense. Is it better to do it later when you need to and you don't have to spend the money today? Or is it better to spend the money today when you have this outside income?
Right.
Because once you're retired, for most of us outside of Social Security, any expense is going to get covered by our savings.
Right.
Working today, the money's coming from outside. You're not necessarily drawing on your savings to cover these expenses. Maybe you are, depending on how big the expense is.
But of course, that, gets back to one of the things that we go over with our clients all the time is like, even in retirement, and, we've said this ad nauseum, retirement could look like a whole lot of different things to different people. But even in retirement, you still need some emergency savings because the shizzle's still going to hit the fan occasionally, and you're going to have to spend more in a particular month than you expected. So whether it's do the home repairs and renovations today, or, replace that old clunker of a car you've been driving right now, or it's sock some money away in the emergency fund for that stuff when it happens. Either way, kind of keeping an eye on that potential future, unexpected expenses, I think will serve you well.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point, just because you're retired doesn't mean the surprises don't stop happening.
Exactly.
Life still happens, both good and bad.
Right.
But the other thing I point out here is, and they actually say home repairs and renovations, which gets me thinking, especially if you already know you're going to stay at the home for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to, as the expression is, age in place.
Right.
Why not prepare your home for the 80, 90, 100-year-old version of yourself?
Yep.
Do some of the things now that makes that house more livable and easier.
Yep.
When you aren't as able to move around as much, or
like the walk-in tub with no, what do they call it? No lip in the shower, or maybe it's the first floor master bathroom, or a full bathroom in case you want to start living on one floor.
Yeah. I mean, especially that, if you got the space and you thinking about doing an addition anyway, do it now, build a first floor master. Even if you don't use it for yourself now, great. You have a great guest room, until you're ready to use it. And then whatever freeloaders visiting you, you can kick them upstairs and you stay downstairs.
And they also make the point here in the Her Money article about inflation, right? And we don't know where inflation is going to go. It doesn't really often go down. And if prices go down, that's actually called deflation, which is also not good. So chances are, if you wait 4 years to do this, it'll be more expensive than if you do it today. And of course, today it's more expensive, we know, than it was 4 years ago. But we can't kick ourselves for what we didn't do in the past. We can only move forward from today. So maybe give your future self a gift by taking this off the to-do list.
Yeah. So third topic, start volunteering now.
What do they mean by this, Kevin?
Well, hey, again, just like figuring out where you want to live, figure out where you want to volunteer. Because, especially if you're not doing it now, something may sound like a great idea, but then when you start doing it, it's like, oh, well, that's not really what I want to do. For example, and I'm not as polite as Stephanie, if you want to work with dogs, volunteer at the local shelter or something, but after 3 weeks, all you find yourself doing is shoveling out dog shit, then, it's like, maybe I can find other things that I find more enjoyable. And that's one reason to do it.
And I think bigger than volunteering, right? They're using volunteering as a proxy for how do you want to spend your time? If you have been going to an office or logging onto your computer and your email and your Slack channels, right, for 8 hours a day for how many years, and all of a sudden that goes away. And again, we talk about scaling down, we talk about going part-time, right? But if you are someone who's going to stop doing paid work, how are you going to spend your time? How are you going to structure your days? Volunteering could be a part of it. Doesn't have to be all of it.
Yeah. I mean, and study after study, survey after survey, all point to the same thing. First year or two after you retire or stop working because you have to, however you want to phrase it, the biggest adjustment and the hardest adjustment is recalibrating your calendar.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what do I do with this time? I had this set schedule for the last 30, 40 years of my life. It is a huge, and I don't think we can't say it enough. You have to experience it for yourself to really appreciate how big of an adjustment it is.
And it's your calendar, but it's also your identity, right? Your sense of yourself and the value that you have in the world, right? That can really be shaken up. We have addressed this on a few episodes with some of our guests. We talked about it in 123 with Diane Gansauer, in 122 with Lynn Harris, in 99 with Elizabeth Parsons, and even 94, Mary Jo Hoffman, right? These are people who either work with folks who go through that retirement transition or were sharing their own experiences of, how do I craft an identity for myself, which is different than full-time worker or boss or, whatever it might be when you're working. it's a big deal, right? Our psychological well-being is grounded in what we tell ourselves about the value we have and what we bring to the world.
I mean, and Stephanie, you're being modest when you're talking about those episodes. Our whole, I guess you would call it what, sub-series or occasional series of the real retirement stories. Same reason. We're talking about things, maybe not things that you want to do particularly, but these are other ideas of things that you can think about.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like we just said, this is a big issue that is not talked about nearly enough.
Well, and it can be tough if you're working full time and full out to find time to start volunteering now. Like you don't have 10 hours a week to go, work at as they mentioned, the hospital or the senior center or a school. But are there, again, ways of doing little experiments? Could you sign up for one, maybe, a day of volunteering and try it out? Or, even just talk to people, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to people who have been through the transition themselves and start putting a little brain power towards, okay, what do I think? And you don't have to have all the answers right away, for heaven's sake, right? It's okay to pivot because nobody's the boss of you in retirement. You can change your mind anytime you want. But think about how you might go about tackling this question.
Yeah, Stephanie, I actually hit that last point a little harder even. We're talking about 20, 30, maybe 40 years of your life.
Right.
You're going to change your mind.
Yeah.
Do
it.
You're not stuck. You're not committed to these things. You can always pivot.
All right, let's move to number 4. Their point is prepare now for rising healthcare costs. And there's kind of 2 pieces to this. There's the healthcare and health and the costs, right, Kevin?
Yes. So shockingly, I like talking about the costs more.
Because he's a numbers and money guy, people.
Yeah, not because I'm overweight and lazy. No, but yeah, especially, the cost, the numbers are the numbers and they're not getting any smaller. To your point earlier, Stephanie, that inflation, it doesn't go down.
Right.
Healthcare costs are going to go up, and not just healthcare cost of the day-to-day of going to see the doctor or the medicine, but a lot of these, support functions, home health care, nursing homes, all these costs are just going up across the board on all these things. They do mention specifically HSAs in here, which if you think I like Roths, you should listen to me rant about HSA, health savings accounts. We've done one episode dedicated to HSAs and, we've referenced them throughout. It's a great way if you're able to partake in a health savings account, set up your own HSA. But, it's from a tax perspective, you get a tax break going in. It grows tax deferred. When you take it out for healthcare, it comes out tax free. I mean, it's from an expense thing. It's a great product that if you can use it, to use it. But it's not the only method out there, right, Stephanie?
Right. And I think bigger picture, again, it's kind of like acknowledge that there will be an expense for healthcare in retirement. It's not that Medicare takes care of it all. It does not. There's a premium for Medicare. There's stuff that it's not covered. And their other point they're making is you want to, both now and in the future, invest in your health, which, for example, for me means working with a personal trainer twice a week. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't actually lift any weights unless there was someone telling me to do it. So that's an investment I'm making now, and I hope to continue making in the future, right? What can you do to invest in your own healthcare? I talked to a woman recently who is full-time caregiver for her aging mother who has dementia, and she invests in her own well-being and healthcare, both in the form of massage, but also physical therapy for some of her own aches and pains. So, don't neglect this stuff. Don't neglect your home repairs. Don't neglect your health.
Right. And Stephanie, I want to go back on something that you mentioned, Medicare.
Yeah.
And it's not just Medicare, but it's also your health insurance in general. understand what you have or what you will have as far as coverage and co-pays and expenses. And yes,
that's not a fun topic, Kevin. I don't want to spend time looking at my health insurance. Blech.
Yeah, yes, I understand that. But at the same time, do you really want to think, for example, one of the biggest problems with Medicare is everybody thinks, oh yeah, dental, eyes, nursing home, all that stuff's covered by Medicare. Medicare doesn't cover that stuff.
No.
I mean, and that's one of the biggest fallacies out there.
Right.
So taking the time to understand what you have and what you don't have, again, will save you, effort down the road of when you're trying to scramble around. Oh my gosh, I now got to pick, a Medicare Advantage or a Medigap plan or something like that. Or do I get to keep it when I leave my employer? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
So you're saying let's try to avoid the negative surprises, right?
Yeah.
Know ahead of time what you have and what you haven't. This is a good point. So, point 5 on the Her Money article, build a social network outside of the office. And I like the first sentence under here. Sometimes your work family doesn't always translate into a full social life outside regular business hours in retirement. So besides how are you going to spend your time? Who are you going to hang out with? They say connection is essential to being healthy and living a long life. Who are you connected with? And hate to say it, but ideally, it's not just people your own age. We want to try to form some friendships with younger people who might be around longer also.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things on that front. One of the things you hear is, especially as people are getting older, they're saying, yeah, I have less friends because they keep dying off.
There's this, or they move to Florida, right? Sometimes they move to different climates and
I have one client who complains. She lives in a retirement community. Hi, Sue. And she complains there's too many old people. She goes, I need some of the youth, some of the vigor just to keep me going.
Right.
And, fortunately she is able to do that. But, that is an issue. I mean, and even, that first year or two after you retire, maybe you do hang out with your coworkers, or they still remember to invite you to, hey, we're doing a happy hour or some so-and-so's birthday or whatever. But, I've heard multiple stories how over time that just kind of goes away.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of these things we do have to be intentional about and invest some time and effort into, which you wish that weren't the case. And maybe in the old days when everyone lived in a small village and people were just there, it wouldn't be such an effort. But with our society the way it is today and, people spending so much time on their screens, not even necessarily knowing their neighbors, right? Thinking about how you can build that network. And maybe, you've got one friend and you can do it together. Honestly, you can be combining it with the volunteering. A friend of mine just started volunteering at his local elementary school. So he's spending a few hours a day there, I think, during the week. And he's enjoying that, right? So yes, it's filling his time. It's giving him good times, but also he's making, networks with the folks who work at the school. So it can be combined, but it is something to think about. I would point back to our episode 87 with Claire Waite Brown, who explored creativity, but also connection. So that was another kind of way to bring in two purposes.
Stephanie, I got a random question for you that
yes, sir.
I have no agenda for asking this question at this point in time. What do you think of quizzes?
Quizzes are fun. Growing up, we always liked the quizzes in the magazines, right? They do have a quiz here. They point to a retirement readiness quiz from AARP, a short quiz. And really, when I went through it myself, it's kind of a retirement literacy quiz. And we are going to point to this in the show notes because I believe our listeners would score very high on this quiz. It's kind of a true false. Here's an assumption people make about retirement. For example, we've already blown one up about Medicare. Medicare pays for everything. I don't have to worry about healthcare and retirement. We've already discussed that in this episode, right? That's one of the questions. So they do have that as one of their suggestions.
And just for the record, if you do perform poorly on this quiz, please don't tell anybody you listen to this podcast. Because clearly it's going to be our failing.
Or you just got to listen more. Listen more.
Yeah, there's the glass half full way to say it, Stephanie.
Next point, check in on your pension. Now, I know not everybody has a pension, but some people do, either from an old employer, or maybe you work for a school district or you're a teacher and you have a pension. Their point here is, again, kind of to what Kevin was saying before, find out what it is, when you're eligible, what your projected benefit is, all the different ins and outs of how the plan works sooner rather than later.
You really don't want to retire and then find out, oh, had I worked 6 more months, I would have gotten a bigger payday.
For example.
But I also want to say, they say pension in here.
Yeah.
I also want to point out 401ks. And yes, I pluralize that. Not your current 401k. You know where that is. I certainly hope. But what about all the other jobs you used to have? People get shocked all the time that they have these accounts elsewhere. That, over time they remember they had it, but then they forgot about it. Or
lost track
they
of.
Even knew they had them.
True. This is true. And, you've got to make sure your old employers or the companies where your plans are have your addresses. I mean, anymore, hopefully it's coming to your email. But in the old days, you used to move and you forgot to change your address with that first plan you had from 20 years ago. They're going to lose you. It's going to be a lost, unclaimed asset.
And just one more thing, because I never try to miss an opportunity to say this. While you're checking on the terms and the balances, check the damn beneficiaries.
Please.
You will be amazed how many some of these older plans, or a plan that you've had for a very long time, you thought you changed and you didn't, or you just completely forgot about.
I don't think you're going to like this next point, Kevin. Point number 8, find a financial advisor.
Why would you want a financial advisor? Why would you want to have anybody who can help talk to you about these things, Stephanie? That just makes, now I just discredit this entire thing. Now it just sounds self-serving.
I mean, honestly, to me, when someone comes to see us within that 10 years before they're going to retire, that is the perfect time, because there's so much to start doing and thinking about. We're going to talk through all these topics that we've covered already and more. How are the different pieces of your specific puzzle going to come together to support you in this next chapter of life? And this is the area where we don't know the path you want to go on. We don't know what kind of life you're trying to craft. That we have to ask you about those things, but we understand how pensions work, and we understand the ins and outs of the 401k rules and the IRA and the tax code. Like, we have the tools that we can use to help you build this next phase in a sustainable way, ideally.
Yeah. I mean, and even to belabor the point even more, because shockingly, we could do a whole episode about this, but it's a lot of the strategies that we'll explore. The more time you have to implement them, the easier they are to implement. I mean, let's face it, Roth conversions. Doing $1 million Roth conversion in 1 year, that's going to be a big freaking tax bill. But if you're 10 years out, we can start strategizing. We can start thinking through when are the opportune times that we can do some of these things.
Correct. And you still have maybe a plan at work where you can make Roth contributions, or you can, adjust your contributions, or maybe sign up for that HSA that you didn't have, right? There's all kinds of things you can be doing. So it really is the ideal time to start working with, and I would say, a financial planner, which to me means not just investments. Like, we're going to look at all the things. All right. Whatever the next number is, they're saying wait as long as possible for Social Security. Now, we just did an episode for Social Security, and we had one from episode 82 with Heather Schreiber on Social Security. So you all know a bit about Social Security. Kevin, what do you think here?
This is the one I have the strongest issue with. Yes, generally waiting longer to collect Social Security is going to be the better option. But the key word there is generally.
Right. It's not one size fits all.
There are several reasons that you might want to claim earlier or not delay longer than necessary.
Right.
I would look into how to incorporate the Social Security benefit in your entire plan.
Yes.
What else are you going to be doing?
Yep.
Maybe there's reasons to collect now. Maybe there's reasons to collect later. But it's much more of an involved conversation. And this is where financial planners come into play.
Right.
But it's a much more involved conversation than just saying some sort of rule of thumb.
And especially, if you are married and there are two Social Security benefits to consider, right? That, there are different strategies there too. It's not necessarily you both wait as long as possible.
Right.
Okay. So because Kevin could speak for the next 3 hours on that, we will move to the next one, which is a little bit more tactical. And I also think it's super helpful. Create a Social Security account, which means go in there, log on. You've got to go through that knowledge-based authentication, which is always creepy. Which of these cars have you ever owned in your life? But create that account. Remember, they used to mail us statements every year. They don't anymore. You've got to log on to get your statement.
And you want to get that statement because, shockingly, on occasion, Social Security makes mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Check your earnings record. Are these numbers correct? Did they miss a year in which you earned $100,000? Guess what? That's going to move the needle on your benefit. You don't want to miss out on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. This is true.
But also you're going to need this for, now how they have the government account set up, you're going to need this for other stuff, Medicare, obviously, but other government portals, these things come into play. So you kind of want to do it anyway, just to be able to explore all of your benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. And safeguard, of course, your password and, look back to our fraud and scams episodes for, suggestions on that. Then, Kevin, they've got a bonus point here, which I think is interesting. They're saying, say it out loud, which to me means tell the world that, you're planning to retire or make a shift or, make an adjustment. I have seen people just kind of keep it quiet to themselves. And then it's easier to kind of drift on and just keep working or keep, not make this big, sometimes scary change because they had no external accountability around it.
Well, psychologists say this all the time. If you don't say it out loud, it's easier to hide from it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you're not telling everybody, I'm thinking of retiring, I'm planning on retiring, I'm doing, whatever, then it's easier for you to push it off. Okay, fine. But also say, I need to check my Social Security account.
Right.
I need to look for these old retirement plans.
These things that might not seem fun to you, not a fun way to spend your Saturday afternoon. But if you've got a timeline I got to get this figured out because I want to retire in a couple of years, maybe it'll help with a little nudge, a little kick in the pants.
Or the other thing you might want to say out loud, as a completely objective observer, I need to find a financial planner.
Who gets this stuff? I do want to put in a plug. So this article we've been talking through is kind of one of these fun listicle articles, right? I do like hermoney.com and Jean Chatzky, of course, great information. But there is a slightly more serious book written by our friend Emily Guy Birkin, who we've had on the podcast before, called The 5 Years Before You Retire. And, it's a couple 100-page book here, so it's going to be more in depth. But she talks about, getting into the nitty-gritty and figuring out both your spending, your budget, your benefits, Social Security, Medicare, healthcare expenses, housing, family, right? A lot of these other topics that haven't been covered in our cute little discussion of this article. But it is, and she points out, the subtitle is Retirement Planning When You Need It Most. So it is a crucial time.
Yeah.
All right. We hope you found this helpful. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next time. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from her.
Be sure to subscribe to the show and please share it with your friends. Show notes and more information available at takebackretirement.com. Huge thanks for the original music by the one and only Raymond Loewy through New Math in New York. See you next time.
Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group, American Financial Management Group, and Sophia Financial are separate entities. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. This information is not intended to be a substitute for individualized tax advice. Please consult your tax advisor regarding your specific situation.